Okay. Um, yeah, so I now get officially started.
Yep.
Welcome to the Oniswa interview,
Thank you.
traditional interview done by USU board candidates every year. Before we get started, can you please introduce yourself, name, degree, and what year are you in?
Yep. So I'm James Green. My degree is economics and law, and I'm third year.
Yeah. What's your favorite USU venue on campus?
Manning Bar, if it was open for longer, but probably Courtyard.
Why are you running for the board?
I'm running on the board because I've been involved in clubs and societies. I've spoken with society executives and presidents. I've been very involved in USU venues, looking at how they run, and I saw a lot of problems with the USU, and I felt like I need to stand up and look to practically deliver stuff that it seemed board directors of the past weren't doing. I felt like there was unfinished business. I felt like there were ways that the USU could expand and improve and innovate where it currently hasn't done. And so I want to be part of that. I want to be part of having a more progressive USU that can practically deliver upon the promises that board directors would bring.
Yeah. And can you please tell me what are your top 3 policies?
My top 3 policies are: number 1, the USU owned discount grocery store in Wentworth. I can elaborate on that later. The second policy I have is a campus life committee as a form of governance reform. And the third policy I would have is, I wish it was 4, but since it's not 4, I would go for reforming the USU complaint system to provide more anonymity for victim survivors.
Yeah, so I guess, can you pick one of those 3 that you have just named?
Yeah.
And can you tell me, how did you come up with it? And was it your idea or someone else's? And did you consult anyone or talk to anyone before deciding that this was a priority of yours?
Yeah, so the USU owned discount grocery store in Wentworth, this was something that I thought about for a few weeks. Somebody recommended it. They said, well, isn't it interesting that USU does not have a grocery store on campus? You've got IGA, Woolies, Coles with the high grocery prices that they can charge, and yet the USU has not entered that space in providing convenient and affordable groceries. Of course, USU has its place with Food Hub, which is essential charity items that you get 5 free items when you register, and it can help students with the cost of living. But it doesn't have this broader view of how can we expand this and support affordability and support convenience for students, and have it on campus where people can come along, and especially for people in student accommodation, for example. An interesting point about where I may have been influenced from is that in the University of Wollongong, they have their own grocery store on campus. Many universities have a pantry, which is essentially Food Hub. But yeah, University of Wollongong, they have this sort of dual system where they have a pantry and they have a grocery store to provide that sort of flexibility, that innovation. And I think that's what the USU needs.
Yeah. On to the next one. So moving away from the policies.
Yeah.
Can you please describe your politics to me without, so your personal politics,
Yes,
without using the words right wing, left wing, progressive, or independent?
Yes, so I would say that without saying the word progressive, I would say I believe in improving accessibility for people. I think that everyone should have equal access to the opportunities that the USU would provide, that in society people should have. like access to healthcare, access to education. But I also think that equality of access, that belief in this fairness for people, should be not tempered by, but empowered by a practicality, being able to deliver on or practically know how you want to see that realized in the world, instead of these sort of abstract ways of thinking about what should be. We should go out there and we should deliver stuff and change things, and know how to do that within the limits of an institution.
Yeah. And can you please disclose if you are a member of any political party?
Yep, I'm a member of the Australian Labor Party.
And are you a part of any faction within USU?
Yep, so I'm within Unity.
Yeah. And so I guess this is like a two-part question. Can you tell me why are you a member of the ALP and why are you a member of Unity?
Yeah, so I'm a member of the ALP because I do think you have to support one of the major parties in order to get progressive change. I know I couldn't use that word before, but I will now. I think out of a choice between those two, you have to go within the institution and practically look to change things. Be able to practically deliver things, do whatever it takes to improve access. And I think the Labor Party has been historically that party that has improved material living standards for people, especially for people who are disadvantaged, who don't have as many opportunities. I'm a member of Unity because I believe within the Labor Party there's a more practical and pragmatic view that comes from Unity than from other areas of the ALP.
Yeah, and I guess just building on your response, how would you differentiate Unity from the other Labour factions within USU, such as the NLS and NSWLS?
Yeah, so I would say Unity is, if you like, a centre-left faction. NLS and NSWLS are more of a left-wing faction. They are a bit more to the left of Unity. I think a key difference is we are more, they like to say, Unity are Social Democrats, and then the Labour left, which is NLS, NSWLS, they're Democratic Socialists, which is a funny little distinction, but it pretty much means Unity sees a very practical way of continually delivering reforms within institutions, reforming these institutions, whereas I think NLS, NSWLS would have more of a tendency for substantial change, but not necessarily change that can be delivered that brings people together. And that's kind of the issue I've had.
And I guess leading on that, do you think should a USU be more political or less political?
The USU is inherently political. It's a student union, right? So it's there to improve services for students. It's there to have student representation over students' own affairs. The very fact that you have 14 board directors and 11 are elected by students, this is saying that people who want their interests to be served should be represented by those same people, which is why there are students overseeing the USU. It's necessarily democratic, it's necessarily participative, right? And so I think for starters, it is inherently political, right? That's the starter. It can take policy stances on key issues. I mean, the partnership and advertising policy in 2025, this is saying that you can't partner with fossil fuel companies, with weapons and munitions companies, with gambling companies, and having any advertising. These are ethical, political stances that the USU takes. However, I do think that board directors, whatever their proclivities or factional alignments, they should still look to not exclude other people from decision making, not think that someone is, too different to work with. At the end of the day, the board charter says you're there to have communication and respect, but also consensus and compromise.
Yeah. I guess kind of moving away from that, as you may know, BDS has been a sustained topic in the past few months in the USU board meetings. The current board has declined to adopt BDS. So if elected, would you support the USU integrating it? Why or why not?
Is this BDS as in the idea of BDS, or is this BDS as it may be construed by certain groups on campus?
Could you clarify?
So, BDS in principle, to boycott, divest, and sanction companies
the principle.
Yeah. I support BDS in principle, right? The idea of not being involved in and letting know and raising awareness of the genocide that is going on in Gaza and in the West Bank, and the illegal occupation of areas of Palestine, and how companies may be complicit in that or directly involved in that. This is something that matters, and I think in principle, yes, I support that. I think we shouldn't renew the partnerships that we have with BDS targeted companies, perhaps BDS listed companies, but I also look at this, while I support it in principle, whatever is provided to the table in terms of policy has to be considered practically. I mean, we can talk about how McDonald's should not have an O-week space, and how there should not be a renewal of those sponsorship agreements. I think that's fair to say. I think it's fair to say that Coca-Cola shouldn't also have that. But I don't think, as other groups have done, there's a petition by the students of BDS calling on, as a direct action, not having any ties, present ties or future ties, with BDS listed companies. Now that includes McDonald's, that includes Coca-Cola, that also includes Dell. I mean, you go into USU buildings, all the monitors are Dell monitors. We're not going to replace each monitor with a non-BDS listed company because of the financial strain, financial cost that would put on the USU. We should consider the practical stance we can take, but still the USU, as an inherently political organization, should be able to take that stance, even if it's limited in some way.
Yeah. And I guess kind of building on to the point you just made regarding Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
So last month's board meeting, so in April, I believe someone from the SRC asked whether Coca-Cola's Welcome Fest activation was a paid sponsorship. The USU confirmed that it was, and that commercial arrangements aren't disclosed. So my question would be, should USU sponsorship arrangements be publicly disclosed to members?
I think there's a consideration that within the prospect of a fiduciary duty and the partnerships you have with other companies, the USU should consider the importance of confidentiality. I would say, though, it is quite common and implied that whenever you see, for example, a Coca-Cola branding or a Coca-Cola advertisement with the USU, it is implied that there is some sort of agreement there, or some sort of partnership or involvement or sponsorship. I think within the confines of a fiduciary duty, I am willing to have, if I'm elected on board, certainly a discussion on whether those sponsorships should be made public.
Yeah, and so given that Coca-Cola is named in BDS campaigns,
Yes.
Hypothetically, would you have signed off on that sponsorship as a board director?
No.
Yeah. Again, another scenario question. So let's say you were elected in the board. how comfortable would you be disagreeing publicly or privately with, let's say, one of the execs or a fellow board director? Can you, I guess, walk me through how you would handle a moment where you think someone is wrong on a public facing issue?
Well, I think if it was a fellow board director, I would pull them aside and speak to them respectfully. I would raise with them my issues with what they've said. I think it's important to do it in person instead of, for example, through email or through text. I think in terms of the board charter, I go back to those values that we have to have with decision making, that we need to have communication and respect. I may have disagreement with a board director, but I'm not going to let it stop my collaboration with them on the issues that face the USU. I want to still be an open mind to them. And look, I would, in terms of publicly, I wouldn't be looking to humiliate any board director. I wouldn't be looking to call them out. Like I would be speaking with them and then make my disagreements known respectfully at board meetings.
Yeah. And moving on from that, can you name one thing that you are critical about on how the USU currently operates?
Yeah, so, I mean, currently, we can look at a few things. One particular issue that I had is the current running of the clubs and society system and its efficiency and accessibility. I think the event applications that club executives and presidents have to do are unfortunately quite inefficient, and they're not really centering the student, having this sort of student-facing union. I think a key example of that, you have a lot of clubs who are unregistered and they're still trying to register right now, and they're not able to get funding because they have to get documentation, they send it through, and then they give a time frame of when when the USU, the club's office, would respond. And then it does, you may, at the very end of the day, such as for AGM documentation, you have the issue of USU staff sending through an email at the very last minute before a club can be registered. Another example is an event application that a society president told me about. They applied for an event, they did all the documentation, they sent it through, they gave 2 weeks for this event to be approved with all the details. And it was on the last day of the 2 weeks, in fact, the day of the event, that the club's office came back and they said, look, we've reviewed your application for this event. It had a lot of issues. Please fix this within 2 hours before your event. I mean, this is not how the clubs and society system should run. There should be follow-up emails in the middle between the managing of this system. And there should be a way for society execs to make clear their issues, right? We should increase the club staffing in the club's office, but we also should have a very regular survey that the clubs and societies committee can regularly review. So what I'm suggesting is, at the end of every year, club executives get this documentation they have to fill. They look at 3 main events that they've done, and those are mandatory. They have to talk about each of those events. What I'm saying is there should be an extra box to say, is there any way that your experience with the USU in applying for these events or with having them managed could be improved? And society executives may leave that blank, or they may fill it. They may very well have problems and they'll raise it. And having that open-ended communication, that regular student engagement, is going to be really important, because then the clubs and societies committee can meet 2 weeks before a board meeting. They can see the issues that have come through, and they can potentially establish a working group to change this and work with staff and students.
Yeah, and I guess on the inverse of that question, can you name one thing that you are quite positive or happy about on how the USU currently operates?
operates. So could this be to do with the partnerships and advertising policy in general?
Yeah, anything like what the USU is doing?
I think, yeah, in terms of, I think it was broadly very ethical, very courageous for the partnerships and advertising policy to be introduced in 2025. The progressive vision that they gave to the USU was very important, and it included banning partnerships with fossil fuel companies, with weapons and munitions companies, with gambling companies, with no advertising for that. I mean, this is really important for student awareness of these sorts of unethical practices, and to say the USU is not going to get involved in that because we care about student issues, we care about student interests, and we don't want these sorts of negative externalities in societies. We want a stance to be taken, and so I think it was really well done, a long time in the making, and a good policy.
Yeah, and I'm going to assume you have read the 2025 to 2028 strategic plan.
Yes.
Yes, okay. So can you pick one thing in it that you agree with and one thing you disagree with?
Okay, yep, let's have a look. I remember seeing the digitization of services within it, improving digital accessibility, and I thought that was really important. I think it's very wide in its applicability and how that can happen. I think there are still ways that we have to continue working in these coming years strategically regarding that. A key part is online ordering, right? Within USU stores, Courtyard has online ordering. You've got your Me and You QR code. And then, other stores don't have that. You can look at the USU app, My USU. It's a very controversial application. I can understand it's well-meaning, it's well-intentioned in what it's trying to do, but unfortunately it's had these issues with registration that has pretty much been a misapplication of the strategic plan, but it can be improved. There is still, it's revocable.
Yeah, and I guess you kind of touched on this earlier regarding portfolios and committees.
Yeah.
If elected, which portfolio or committee would you prefer to take on? I believe you mentioned something about the campus life portfolio that you would like to
Yes.
establish. Can you elaborate more on that as well?
Yep. So first off, I don't think I have necessarily a particular preference. I would say that I care about the financial performance of the USU. I care about the way the clubs and society system is run, as I've mentioned earlier. I care about the governance of the way the bylaws and the constitution are framed. Those are, important committees. And if I was honoured to be on those committees, I would do a lot of work on them. I think it's fair to say on other committees like the Women's Committee, the Queer, or should I say no, the portfolio, sorry, the Women's Portfolio, the Queer Portfolio, the Ethnoculture Portfolio, these are not within my area. So I don't think I'll be involved in that. Other people can have their, allow them to have that. But regarding the Campus Life Committee, not portfolio, I've looked into the portfolios and the bylaws. This is essentially saying, you can go around about a certain issue on campus and then you can raise it at board meetings and raise it with people. An interesting thing about portfolio holders, you have to get you have to be accepted or allowed by the executive committee to go to staff to talk about the issue you have or propose something. So I think portfolios are quite limited. But committees, that's when you're able to regularly meet with staff and have students, not only board director students and staff, but also, depending on how it's designed, you could have student representatives. In the bylaws, there are campus activity coordinators. We don't know about these campus activity coordinators as much. They work on O Week. They are, of course, appointed by the board. But what I'm saying is there should be a committee that looks to revive campus life with, after COVID, there's still work that needs to be done to support entertainment on campus, to have fun in between classes and after class. I can talk about the makeup that I would like within that committee, but the purpose is there can be working groups set and there can be issues raised by students who are not board directors and also student board directors. If you have the campus activity coordinators in there and also presidents of relevant societies for campus life, for example, the SUDS, Surge, Film Soc, people who are involved in entertainment and arts and culture, involving them in a bottom-up approach is an important governance reform, and it would address a key part of the USU's purpose, which is to improve the student experience.
Yeah. I guess on the point of portfolios and committees,
yeah.
Can I get your thoughts regarding should board directors be taking on a lot of portfolio and committees at once?
I wonder what you're referring to. Look, I think if there are enough student board directors on board, it would really depend if there's a close linkage. If there was a board director taking on a lot of portfolios or on a lot of committees, it could be the case that they are related portfolios, right? I think in order to make sure each student board director can have their say and involve themselves, we can't be going around having one student director with one portfolio, but then having some with none and others with like 4. No, I don't think that's the way you can run an orderly board.
Yeah. I guess moving on from that, I think this is a key part that gets brought up every election cycle, no matter if it's SRC or USU, but a lot of, I guess, students they get promised about a lot of stuff, like whatever it might be, and it's very easy to talk the talk during campaign season.
Yes.
How would you hold yourself accountable to the students who voted for you and for those who also did not vote for you?
Or how would I hold myself accountable? I mean, at the end of the day, you should only promise what you can deliver. You should not promise what's already been delivered, right? You should understand the institution and what has been done before. I would hold myself accountable in a number of ways. I think I would continually engage with students. I do have in my policy statement, when it is revealed, a commitment to have live streamed ex-camera board meetings, to have a mobile office for directors at USU venues. So I can, for example, but other board directors can regularly speak with students on issues. I'm very willing to potentially create an account of my own, or have a report that I can provide at each board meeting. Obviously there is a portfolio update as a sort of method of accountability. I'm not going to be going around each month if I have a portfolio or a committee without saying something about how it's all been going. And I think that's really important.
Yeah. Moving on from that, I believe you sat in on the April board meeting.
Yes.
So last month. What did you make of FanVu's response on BDS that, quote, formally aligning the USU with a movement like BDS is sort of cutting against the goal of inclusivity?
I could see why she would put forward that argument. I think I should just preface, FanVu has been a president in a very transitory period in incorporation. I think she's done a great job in retaining student representation but delivering incorporation. With regards to the point on BDS, I think it is a general consensus that we don't want to have partnerships with companies that are complicit in violations of international law or of Israel's genocide in Gaza and the West Bank. I think that's common sense. I think most students agree with that. So in terms of inclusivity, it is important to represent the student's stance on these things. I think, again, it's fair to say that the stance that would have to be taken on BDS by the USU should be considered in light of its institutional constraints and its practicality. I think we have to consider, I was at the board meeting, I saw it. There was a petition given out to every board director, except the ones on Zoom, because they didn't have a digitized version. And they said, cut ties with all BDS listed companies. Mm-hmm. That includes McDonald's, that includes Coca-Cola, but it would include Dell. Again, there are financial costs to the USU that have to be considered with practicality. So I think within that context, Fan was looking at what was in front of her, which is this petition that is asking for a very impractical way of delivering BDS in principle. And even though I support BDS in principle, I don't think that was the right way to do it.
Yeah. And I guess moving on a bit from that, I believe Unity has had presidents and board majorities or members at the USU over the years.
Yes.
Like a strong presence, I would say. From your view, what has Unity done well in the past board terms, and what has Unity gotten wrong?
I think we have to consider every Unity member or board director member backed by the Unity faction in its context. I mean, you have a former USU president, Connor Werrett. You have the USU treasurer within the past 2 years of James Dwyer, who's done a remarkable job in ensuring the financial performance of the USU. You've had Grace Porter, who has been very practical. Apparently, fun fact, the free water that is at Courtyard or the USU venues is because Grace Porter said we should have free water. Why do we have to pay for water? These are practical things that support students that board directors can do, right? And I think the previous board directors that I do take inspiration from, James Dwyer's good work with financial performance, Grace Porter's work on the safety forum. That was really well done. She had a big hand in that. Mm-hmm. And of course, Connor Werrett was a good president.
Yeah. I guess my next one would be, as you know, Zaid Tabish is also running, and he's in NSWLS. You and Zaid are the two factional Labour candidates in this race that I am aware of, on opposite sides of, I guess, the race. I guess, what's your read on Zaid and what he's running for?
So what do you mean by opposite sides of the race?
Oh, I mean, like, you're competing against each other, technically.
Well, we could both get on board. Maybe one of us get on board. Maybe none of us get on board. I mean, there are many possibilities. How I would see it is it's important that the USU has a progressive and practical stance on things. I haven't seen Zaid's policies yet. I'd love to see them. I'd love to look into them. I'd love to work with him. But you know, I think it's important to have people running who are taking, yes, a progressive stance, but it has to be practical. It has to be deliverable.
Yeah, and moving on from that, as you are probably aware or may not be aware of, 7 out of 11 candidates this year are law students. Why do you think that is?
Why do I think that is?
Yes.
Well, I'm not sure. I guess it's the case that for whatever reason, whatever context, whatever condition, some candidates have put their hand up from some faculties and others have not. I think it's unfortunate that we don't have representation from more from engineering or arts or commerce. It's good to have a diversity of those sorts of backgrounds educationally on board. I can't, generally tell you why there are 7 out of 11 law students and why there aren't, 4 more people that put their hand up who are from different faculties. But I'd say, it's unfortunate.
And I guess I have heard some, concerns or criticisms about how, 7 of the 11 of the candidates are law students, and it's not particularly reflective or, it doesn't really reflect the wider, broader student body. Do you think that is a fair criticism or a fair assessment?
Again, it's fair to say that there should be student board directors who come from a variety of backgrounds, whether it be their culture backgrounds, whether it be their gender, whether it be the diversity of their views, and whether it be whatever faculty they come from. I think that's fair to say. I think we have to not be too black and white. I mean, there are law students, but there are also people who are running to be a board director with policies. I think it's not necessarily the case that law students would have good or bad policies. You have to take each candidate on its merits and what they want to provide. I think the importance is just having fresh, practical ideas that you can deliver on that support students' interests and address their issues.
Yeah. And now moving away a bit from that, lastly, as one of the 7 law students running, what differentiates Sydney Law James from the other 6?
Sydney Law James.
Or James Green?
Well, I'm just running as James this time.
Uh-huh.
I think, to start from a satire account to be here, I guess, is a long journey. But I'm very serious about this role. I think the importance of creating a community, and maybe online then, but now it's on campus now, and having the opportunity to deliver policies and understand this USU as an institution and the issues that students have. I think what I provide is that fresh perspective of being able to listen to people, being able to look thoroughly and in detail in the ways that I can deliver on what I care about and what students care about. They care about campus life, and that's why we have a campus life committee in my policy statement. I care about cost of living, and so do so many students who are struggling under current inflationary pressures. That's why I've looked for a very innovative, ambitious, but still deliverable policy in a USU-owned discount grocery store in Wentworth. I care about safety, and so do people on campus. But I'm also looking to reform the complaints process, because right now, you have victim survivors who may complain, make a club complaint about a person, and the identity of that victim survivor who may have been sexually assaulted is revealed to the person who is being complained about. And so I want to be there on board to advocate for victim survivor anonymity, to have more counselling options. These are practical reforms, fresh ideas that reflect students' interests and concerns, and I'm willing to deliver them. I'm willing to fight for them, not only in this campaign, but actually deliver them on board. And if I'm given that chance, that honour, that opportunity, I'll be very willing to do that and hold myself accountable at every turn.
Yeah, amazing response. Moving on. My question, you already probably noticed, but as you know, 5 candidates are about to be elected
Yes.
for the board. Let's say you're one of them. Which other 4 candidates would you want to work with on the board and why?
4
Yes.
out of 11. Look, I'm happy to work with anybody, to be honest, if it means we can deliver practically. A particular person I would love to work on board with is Ming, first year law student. He has very similar concerns that I have and so many students have on cost of living. And community inclusion is something that we both care about. So I think we have that alignment of concerns where I think we can really work together on board. So shout out to me.
Yeah. Do you have any other anyone else that comes into mind?
Well, I mean, I think we have a lot of lovely candidates. Some law students, some not. Who cares? I mean, at the end of the day, these are good people who want to represent students, and I'll be happy to work with whichever board directors get on board if I'm fortunate to be one of them as well.
Yeah. And lastly, before we move on to, I guess, the more fun questions
Yes,
of the interview,
I'm looking forward to that.
who do you see as your strongest competition in this race?
My strongest competition. I mean, I'm not really thinking about, that sort of view. I'm very focused on putting forward the issues that students care about and the policies that I want to practically deliver to support that. This is a campaign that I'm not looking to, to rat bag or white ant anyone else. I'm just looking to put the best foot forward for the USU without any outside noise.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's move on to, I guess, the more lighter topics
Yes.
of the interview. So first, can you please tell me what is your slogan?
My slogan is touch grass, vote green.
Very creative. Can you please tell me how did you come up with it, and is there a message behind that slogan?
Yeah. So it's it took a lot of thinking and reflection, but I realized my surname was Green, and I realized that grass is also green, and I realized that touch grass is a lovely little phrase that links in with that. There is a message behind it. The message is that for quite a number of years, the USU may have taken to these sorts of progressive stances, and they may have been purporting to improve the student experience, and that's important, but there needs to be a bigger view on practical delivery. And it's important that incorporation's gone through, but there's more to do. There's more governance reform to do. There's more practical things to do, to touch grass, right? And candidates in so many elections have promised the world, but they've rarely delivered on board. And I'm here to touch grass. I'm here to make sure that I can hold other candidates accountable to touch grass as well, to be able to deliver on what they say, which is the most important thing, right? That students know when they vote somebody, they know exactly what they're about. They know what they will get, and they know what can be delivered upon those promises, instead of just vibes.
Yeah. Very, very in-depth and thought out answer. Yeah. Can you tell me what is your campaign color?
My campaign color, this might be a bit surprising, but my campaign color is green.
Wow. Yeah. Very surprised indeed. Can you please disclose who your campaign manager is?
My campaign manager is the lovely Leo Moore.
Yeah. What is your favorite drink to get on campus?
My favorite drink to get on campus is probably a cheeky apple cider from Courtyard.
Mm. And lastly, before we wrap up, what is your green flag and what is your red flag?
That's super funny. I think the biggest green flag is that I will deliver what I promise because I know how to deliver it, and I've said the steps to get through to that. What would be my red flag? I think, I don't know, my red flag may be I don't know. I might touch so much grass that I just mug all of the other candidates. I mean, I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, very confident. Thank you so much for doing this interview.
All good. Thank you very
Yeah.
much.